A Secret Service agent was robbed at gunpoint during Biden's trip to California. Ashley, come on this, please. Tell us what happened.
You can't make it up, can you? According to the Tustin Police Department, that's in Orange County, south of LA, an unnamed U.S. Secret Service agent had his bag stolen at gunpoint. Police say the off-duty agent at the time, who was not hurt, actually discharged his weapon during the robbery, but the suspect managed to get away, and it's unknown if the robber was injured. Officers did find some of the agent's belongings nearby, but the search for the suspect and the investigation is ongoing. And of course, the agent was with the president in California for that very glitzy campaign stop. But the crime, well, it's always in the headlines, isn't it, Stu?
Yep. All right, thanks, Zach.
Fascinating. Wow. Well, that is Biden's America, I guess. That's all you can say about that. That's all I want to say. That's all I got to say about that. Now, we've got some great news today that happened. Flip over to this. Let's read this through. Whew. Kennedy does not get tired of winning. Okay. Into the news. In the press, Pennsylvania. All right. Pennsylvania submits the signatures to gain ballot access in swing state. Pennsylvania. Kennedy submits the signatures. The Kennedy campaign today announced it has submitted more than 9,000 signatures, nearly twice the required amount to gain ballot access in Pennsylvania. The Keystone State is one of the most highly contested swing states in the presidential election, having gone to President Biden by just 1.3% in 2020, if you believe the numbers, I'm sure. We now have a candidate we can vote for who truly cares about us, said Northeast Regional Director John Russell. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. will give Pennsylvanians the government the accountability they deserve. Pennsylvania allows for multiple signature turn-ins, and volunteers plan to continue to submit more signatures in the coming days. Now we go back again. The campaign, they're very aggressive. We could read this off again. Okay, here we go. The Kennedy Shanahan ticket is officially on the ballot in 8 states as of today, June 20th, 2024. Utah, Michigan, California, Delaware, Oklahoma, Hawaii, Texas, South Carolina. It has collected enough signatures for ballots access in 15 other states. These are New Hampshire, Nevada, North Carolina, Idaho, Nebraska, Iowa, Ohio, New Jersey, New York, Florida, Minnesota, Tennessee, Alaska, and Washington. And now, today, Pennsylvania. That's right, Pennsylvania added to this list. With these numbers here, let's look at this. The Kennedy Shanahan campaign has collected the signatures needed for ballot access in 23 states, totaling 323 electoral votes. That is 60% of the 538 total electoral votes nationwide. That is more than enough to take Kennedy as a serious candidate, a serious competitor in this race. Let's go look at the map, and we're going to see a little bit more colors here changing, but all of these, and again, we just have 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all we're waiting for. But Kennedy is saying, I wish I had my note right here. Actually got it. I'm going to pull it up. So I believe he was saying by July, they will have enough. They will be on all 50 ballots. That's what he's saying. By July. Just in time when it is official for the Democrat Party and the Republican Party. So that will be great. Yeah, I must have it another notebook. Here I have. Okay, so that is the big news today with Kennedy. Now let's go back. Let's see. I want to play a little bit of this here.
Now let's bring in our great friend of the show, political journalist John Fund. All eyes, as I was just talking to Adam about, are on Joe Biden and Trump ahead of the debate next week. But you wrote an interesting piece today about Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s exclusion from the event. Tell us about that.
Well, I think that CNN caved into pressure from the Trump and Biden campaigns. You heard from your previous guest that they basically promised he wouldn't be on the stage. So they came up with criteria which would basically create a catch-22. They had to be at 15% in 4 polls. We ended up doing 3 and coming close. But the real problem was they said he could not be in the debate unless he was on enough state ballots to equal 270 electoral votes, which is the majority that you need to win. The problem with that is this debate is 3 months earlier than any previous debate in the 65 years since we've started them. That meant that Kennedy, frankly, couldn't possibly meet that standard because many states have windows for collecting signatures that conflict with that. Some states, can't collect signatures until July, so you can't be on that state's ballot because you're not even collecting signatures. Everyone agrees that Robert F. Kennedy be on the vast majority of state ballots, probably all 50 states, but CNN basically said, no, even though you may have collected the signatures in enough states, they haven't been certified. Well, as one of the ballot experts I spoke to said, well, Trump and Biden aren't on any state ballots because they haven't even been nominated. They're not even their candidates of their party. So this is the ultimate media bias. It's basically excluding someone who was between 10 and 15% in the polls as a very popular base and is a famous name. So I think that the two-party duopoly in America is not only alive and well, but it's basically crushing any alternative voices.
Yeah, and it's proven.
The vote that
it's being proven. And this is what Kennedy has been so good at. Something very similar that President Trump was very good at, too, is really exposing these things, putting it right out there. All the stuff that we know about how the media is, how they try to spin it. This is why people don't want to participate in what they call the two-party system. It's not supposed to be this way. It's not supposed to just be 2 people, and that's it. It was never meant to be like that. It should not be like that now. So that's why I really love RFK Jr. running right now. Even though I'm going to vote for Trump, I really do love that RFK Jr. is running right now, and he would be my second choice. And if Trump wins in 2024, and if Kennedy runs in 2028, I'm definitely going that way. Even though I disagree with him on some things, just disagree with him. It's a very important issues, but I probably disagree with Trump on some very important issues too. But the main thing that I see is just there's something that both of these guys have to finish, and they've both been doing great work for this country in their own way. Trump has been doing great things in the real estate side, building side, getting people jobs, making sure people have jobs. Trump has been very good at that. Kennedy has been really good on the environmental side, on the lawyer side, just helping people, both of them, making sure people have jobs, making sure people have some rights here. So they've both done really good. And it's kind of like it was at first when I first knew it was going to be Kennedy versus Trump at some level, at some point, it was very exciting. It was entertaining, but as it gets closer, now we're like 5 months here, a little less than 5, maybe a little bit more than 5 months, but it's coming down to it. It's getting serious now. It's getting very, very serious. And so the entertainment value, the shock value, and all that value is starting to wear off, especially as I get deeper into this book, writing this book, as I'm watching what is happening. And I've gotten further along than I actually thought that I would be at this point, which is awesome. It's great. I've never been this far along in the book. I've never tried to attempt anything like what I'm doing here right now, but it's been a lot of fun. But it is very, very serious, and we are talking about, the lives of humans and the country, blah, blah, blah. But it's like when you put your faith in Jesus Christ, you take away a lot of that pressure. You don't have the same pressures of it's do or die, and this is it, right? Even Trump will talk about it. If Biden gets in, there's going to be no more country. I don't believe that at all. I don't really believe that Trump believes that either. I understand it's a really good talking point. It's something that he wants to focus on, but you can't, like Kennedy says, it's that fear tactic. People don't want to vote out of you. We don't want people voting out of fear. We don't want to force them to vote out of fear. And at the same time, I've seen Kennedy do the same thing too. And maybe not directly, but the same thing that Trump does. Kennedy's team and Kennedy's videos, they've kind of done that too. It's like, hey, vote for Kennedy if you don't want Trump to get back in. What about Biden? Like they're just like, well, Biden has no chance. Well, Biden didn't have a chance in 2020 either, and he still got in. So what makes us think that we're not going to see the exact same thing happen in 2024? What makes us think this is going to be any different? And so when they're talking about the two-party system and they're talking about everything that Kennedy is doing to try to combat that, everything that we probably MAGA supporters, Trump supporters probably also think that Trump has been doing to try to combat the two-party system, which kind of sounds weird when you think about it. If you don't know anything about President Trump since 2016 and in those first 4 years in office, the rallies, the speeches, all of that. If you don't know anything about that, you may just think Trump is just another Republican, but he's anything but. He is not a Republican. Everything that he has done, the Republicans have gone after him. The establishment Republicans, the rhinos, whatever you want to call them, but it's the ones who believe that they have power, who think that they hold power. And we've seen some of them fade away, like Liz Cheney. Nancy Pelosi is kind of fading off, right? Chuck Schumer, that's kind of fading out. California senators, even Gavin Newsom's like they're trying to really hold on to the Gavin Newsom thing, and it just doesn't seem like it's going to work. Maybe they'll buy it because what else do they have? But it's like, hey, put your best players out there, right? Put your best players out there on our team. And that's what the Democrats are doing. They're just trying to play the best players, but they're not playing the right game. They're not playing the game the way it was intended to be in our Constitution. And that's the big problem. They're trying to change the game to rig it in their favor. And we see that. And Kennedy has been very good at exposing that. And Donald Trump has been very, very good at exposing that too. So I'm just trying to get the mic kind of right here. So let's continue on. I want to see a little bit more of this video here. It's good. Good stuff.
Junior gets will probably be quite instrumental in deciding who becomes president, because if he manages to pair people away from
and they keep
Biden,
saying that it's all about who is Kennedy going to take more votes away from. It's not about saying, hey, we got a really good third party, we got a really good third option here. They don't want to focus on that. So, I mean, I get it. I get those are the talking points. That's the way everything is going because we're at this turning point. So I understand that, but I hope we're not thinking the same way 4 years from now, 8 years from now, 12 years from now, that, whoa, we got this third person here and he's going to shake everything up and he's going to take away votes from everybody else, when it should be like, hey, we got, some strong party. We got some strong people running here. We got some good choices. Cool. Let's choose the best one. That's what we need to see. That's what the country wants. That's what the American people need. And it's going to take a lot of more people to get involved. And it doesn't even take much either, especially with social media, with the digital age. You don't have to really get involved that much, but get involved somewhat. Pay attention, vote, and vote. That's the one thing. We don't want a digital vote. We don't want to ever get to that point. We want to make sure, and that's the hardest thing. That's what they know. They want to keep you home. They want to keep you on your computers, on your TVs, on your cameras, on your phones. They don't want you actually walking into a physical building, filling out a piece of paper, and casting that vote. It's like you almost feel embarrassed. It's going to be very foreign to a lot of these kids in these next years. So it's very important. Introduce them to paper, to pen, to physical writings, because we really need that. And the sad thing is then they take the physical paper and they run it through a digital scanner. So that's where we are now. That's where we are today. Instead of just putting it in a box and, okay, I don't need to run it through a freaking scanner. What are you running it through a scanner for? But the good thing is you could always say, okay, let's do that, and let's always make sure that we actually recount at least one automatic recount, an automatic recount for everything. So we get it right and make sure we get it right twice. I don't see anything wrong with that. That should be standard. That's like a no-brainer. It's something that should always happen. And then we'll see. You don't run the same thing. I'm talking about you run it through the scanner. That's number one. If there's any debates, any issues, anything like that, you do a physical hand count. Recorded, doesn't have to be made public, but recorded just in case there's some shenanigans or anything like that. Believe me, you will stop a lot of the fraud that is happening. Because the fraud used to be stuffing the ballots, and now it's a digital stuffing of those ballots. Let me continue on.
That will play into Trump's hands. I mean, the vote for RFK Jr. is consequential, so surely he should be at the debates.
Well, under these standards, two previous candidates who did make it into debates, John Anderson in 1980 in the Reagan-Carter election and Ross Perot in the Bush-Clinton election in 92, would also have been excluded. So I think what we have here is a situation in which over half of the American public believes that both Trump and Biden shouldn't be running. Over half. And they also believe, 20% of them, that they hate both candidates, not just dislike or disagree with, but hate them. So this is the least popular set of candidates we've ever had in modern American history. And what does the media do?
I just don't
Instead of
believe
promoting
that.
alternatives and responding to this public pressure, they're saying, no, you're going to eat your Marmite.
And this is why I never like polls. I've never been polled. I've never been involved in any of these political polls or anything like that. And from what I hear is they take like 1,000, 2,000 people, and then it's all just math. And for mathematicians and statisticians and all that, that's great. But for the real people that are out there, how accurate is it? And why do we need that? And why they put so much faith in it? That's why the polls, I've never really gotten into the polls, because they look at 2,000 people, and all those people, that small minority is supposed to decide, what our views are and who likes this person more, who doesn't like that person more. It just all seems made up. It seems not made up, but it's manufactured. And Kennedy also talked about that too, of how they were skewing these polls so that they were making it so that the polls would make sure that he did not qualify he would never got 15% in these polls. He was talking about this. He articulates it very, very well, and he will continue to. But we're going to see what happens here, because we're only a few days away. We're 6 days away from this. But there's some of these things, and I hear these guys talk about this. It's just like, man, I don't know. It's old way of thinking. But then the new way of thinking is also bad too. We got to meet somewhere in the middle, I guess.
Whether you like it or not, and you're going to have Marmite brand 1 or Marmite brand 2, but that's all you're going to get.
They should be eating Vegemite, as far as I'm concerned. Now, James spoke about this on the program here last week, how difficult it is for the general public to gauge where Trump and Biden are actually sitting, because each week you get multiple contradictory polls coming out. For example, Fox News released their national survey this week, which showed Biden leading by 2 points. Where do you think the candidates are really sitting? Because I've tried to take a look at some of the polling. It's all over the shop.
I think your instincts are wise. Let me let you in on the great secret of polling. They tell you what the numbers are. They almost never tell you, except in the fine print, what the margin of error is. All of these polls, almost without exception, are within the margin of error, which means they could be off. I think we can only say 3 things safely about this election. It is close. It will be decided in the 7 to 10 swing states, and either candidate can win. Other than that, we're going to have to get through this debate, because that will be one of
and
the
this is another thing. He brings up a great point here, because this is what 2020 was. 2020 was like, wow, it looked like Trump had it locked down, sealed. It was done. It was a done deal. and then shenanigans, 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 shenanigans. 4 times, if not more, maybe 6 in 6 different states, possibly, maybe even more. But just those ones, and that's what Trump was looking at. He wasn't looking to redo the whole election, to recount state or to recount nationwide, which probably seems like a good idea now. That's why I'm saying if you just do some automatic recount, no matter what, in a different way, in a different format, you have something really good there. And then it would just make sure that we do end up having what the FBI said happened in 2020 is the most perfect election ever. It just 2020 is just there was no way Biden should have gotten that. There's no, if it was legal, if it was fair, if it was balanced, just no way. Without COVID, wouldn't have happened. Without the people trying to pour over through the border and all that stuff, which maybe wasn't that bad. But what it really seemed like was people like Sidney Powell. There were a lot of people when it came out that they got caught with their hands in the cookie jar. All of these fake stories came out. All of these fake things came out to say, hey, there's voter fraud here, there's voter fraud here. And then because they were creating fake stories that could be easily disproven, instead of getting people to focus on the real stuff that could be proven. Look over here, not over there. They did it in 2020. They had COVID. That was a variable that was just, seemed a little bit too hard to think that it was something they took advantage of, as opposed to something that was a part of the plan. Whatever your views are on that, I'll just kind of stop it right there and continue on, because I do want to make it to the 27th. I'd like to show the debate live at some level, and trying not to get a strike between now and the 27th, just to let YouTube know.
Could be a game changer. And the conventions, which are going to be watched by a lot of people. And then we can come to shall we say, a more knowledgeable conclusion about where the race stands. As it is right now, it's close. And what is it they say in Hollywood once? The screenwriter said about the studio executives, nobody knows nothing now.
And while we're on the polling, there's more polling, as much as we've just sort of denigrated a little bit, but it's showing that Trump is gaining ground with black voters. And I just love this left CNN senior reporter, Harry Enton, absolutely shocked. Take a look.
If you're thinking of selling your home soon, you don't want to miss out on this. Not only will I buy your house fast, I can also pay your next month's rent, mortgage, or...
It's not just that Joe Biden is losing ground, it's that Donald Trump is gaining ground. You go from 7%, single digits at this point in 2020, to now 21%. And
do
again,
people
John,
really believe
I keep
that?
looking for signs that this is going to...
I don't believe that. I don't know. And this is another thing about the polls, because, again, you have to look at the source of the poll. But really, 86%, when we saw the rallies that were out there in 2020, and we saw the people that were gathering out there. There's a lot of black people out there too. I don't know. I find it hard to believe. But again, this is why you can't believe these polls. You can't trust these polls. And maybe that's what they want. Maybe that's the purpose of these polls, is because it's just nonsense. It's garbage. I never pay attention to the polls. I have a few polls in the book right now. At this point, I'm probably just going to take those polls out because they're nonsense. They're garbage. Let's move on.
to go back to normal. And I don't see it yet in the polling. If anything, right now, we're careening towards a historic performance for Republican presidential candidate, the likes of which we have not seen.
Who's this guy looking at? Is he looking at the people that the guy is supposed to be talking to? Or is he reading off a script?
In 6 decades.
Now, putting aside the reliability or otherwise of these polls, it's interesting to watch the response to a poll like that. How could it happen? How could they possibly be voting for Trump?
Well, what I said about polls isn't that they're unreliable. I said there's a margin of error, so you can't be sure who's ahead or who's behind if it's close. This shift, both in Hispanic votes and some Asian votes and also black votes, is beyond the margin of error. It's a clear shift from 7 to 21% for Trump is statistically significant. So those polls are capturing something. Now, it's not blacks over the age of 50, it's blacks under the age of 50 and primarily men. But a lot of blacks, young blacks under the age of 50, say, well, Donald Trump is strong, he's decisive, wages were going up when he was president. Now we have inflation, all the prices are going up. And Biden looks weaker and weaker, and Trump looks strong by comparison, even though the age difference is not great.
Just very quickly before we go, New York Times columnist Nicholas Kristof, he wrote in a recent piece that West Coast cities are a mess because of Democratic Party leaders. He said, quote, "My take is that the West Coast central problem is that it's infected with an ideological purity that's focused more on intentions than on oversight and outcomes. We offer a version of progressivism that doesn't result in progress." He also said, quote, "Liberals like me do need to face the painful fact that something has gone badly wrong from where we're standing in charge from San Diego to Seattle." Oh, finally an admission, John.
Well, I give Nicholas Kristof a great deal of credit. One of the hardest things in the world is to attack your own team or the people you identify with. And he has done that here. Now, he made some comments that he thought East Coast liberals were governing far more effectively than West Coast liberals. But the bottom line is he is at least grappling with the real issues that are making a lot of American cities on the West Coast unlivable. I'm from California. I'm from San Francisco, and I grieve every day for my native city as to what's happened to it. So this is the beginning of an intelligent conversation we can have. You know, I yearn for the day when we don't just discuss personalities, Biden versus, we actually discuss policies. How do we get out of this mess? And there are bipartisan solutions that we can talk about and implement that would make life better for everyone.
Yeah,
Well, the first part of fixing something is admitting that there is a problem. John Fund, thanks for your time.
I want to play a little.
Listen up, you pump cheapskates. Since you
Okay. All right, this is from The Hill. This is good too. They got good stuff.
Hello, everyone.
No Robbie. Too bad. I like Robbie. That's all right.
And welcome to another Rising Friday show. I'm Jessica Burbank, joined with Amber Duke. It's good to be with you in person.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
Always. Let's get into this. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. will not be in CNN's debate next Thursday, despite his best efforts to nudge himself onto the stage next to President Biden and Donald Trump. The closest he'll get is a TV screen to watch the televised showdown. The network released a statement Thursday saying he didn't meet the requirements to qualify. CNN's requirements include appearing on a sufficient number of state ballots, agreeing to accept the rules and format of the debate, and receiving at least 15% in 4 separate national polls of registered or likely voters that meet CNN standards for reporting. Kennedy was 1 poll short of reaching the necessary threshold.
The Kennedy campaign claims that they've collected enough signatures for ballot access, totaling 310 electoral votes, surpassing the 270 required. Election officials have not verified this. Kennedy released a statement following CNN's official decision.
The 2 other candidates don't agree on much, but they do agree about excluding me from that stage. That's why the Washington Post reported on May 17th that, quote, Biden's advisors quickly let it be known that they had not agreed to any terms that could include Kennedy. The Post also reported that, quote, one of the CNN producers on a Wednesday call with Trump aides had explained at the time that, quote, RFK Jr. will not be on the stage, end quote. While I'm flattered to know that President Biden and President Trump are frightened by the prospect of debating me, shutting me out of that debate makes a mockery of democracy.
According to The Hill and Decision Desk HQ, Trump has 41.2% in the polls, Biden has 40.2%, and RFK Jr. has 7.1%. So the 4 polls that RFK submitted appear to be from Harvard Harris, CNN, Forbes, Monmouth, and Quinnipiac, so 5. And they said that Monmouth didn't count. which is a little questionable to me because I've always thought that Monmouth was a pretty decent poll. I wonder why it doesn't meet CNN standards.
Yeah, they're one of the big ones. I think it's tough because RFK Jr.'s website says he, with the ballots he's on, could get a maximum of 310 electoral votes. Now, it's up to the secretaries of state to process all of that paperwork and the petitioning that goes into that. The infrastructure is almost impossible to figure out if you're an independent like RFK Jr. is. It's very expensive and very timely. And so the fact that he's at a point where he feels like the paperwork's in, and as long as it's reviewed and everything goes well, he's going to be on the ballot in enough states to be a contender here. It's a little bit sad that secretaries of state can be a barrier to access in that way, but it sounds like the polling is really what's getting in the way, that CNN maybe has said, oh, well, we can't wait around for the secretaries of state to count these, petition signatures and do all of the paperwork. We're going to rely on polls. But then to say that a Monmouth poll isn't a valid poll, it's a bit shocking.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's obviously intended to keep RFK off the stage. The rules were created between the Biden campaign and the Trump campaign and the CNN and the network at CNN. So they probably made the bar just high enough so that they had this big, rematch showdown between Trump and Biden.
Yep, I think that's right. So let's go to this.
It is a revolutionary thing to go from 2 to 3. In Christianity, there is the Trinity, or the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. You and me and the Spirit between us makes 3. 3 is a powerful shift in perspective. The third eye, the Celtic knot, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, birth, life, and death. The triangle and the traffic light. You have only 2, there will be accidents. 2 is a black and white world, but 3 brings in all the colors. And America is about to make that revolutionary shift from 2 to 3. 2-3.
Some positive change needs to happen, and it's going to happen.
When was the last time you were into politics? It's like, I haven't experienced that in forever.
There is a rising tide of independent voters sweeping the nation.
Right now, more than any time in history, there are more independents in America than those that claim to be either Democrat or Republican.
All has to do with allowing this country to create a new cultural identity, and all we have to do is stand together.
So to me, American Independent is really about that free thinker.
Being as true to myself as I can be.
Very human.
Hard worker, this is the little man fighting giants.
The warrior spirit rather than a soldier who just takes orders.
It's that person that's an individual that knows their worth, that knows their values, and really is not afraid to speak those values.
Honest, true,
fierce warriors. The American Independent senses that we're ready as a country for something new.
Have something different for myself and my kids.
People are ready for change. That their ability to choose their leaders have been so pigeonholed by the spirit of greed.
That's why things have stayed the same.
Red, blue,
blue, blue, blue,
red,
blue,
red, blue, red, red,
yellow.
There is this crack in the shell.
The political system is broken.
But what if it's not broken? What if it's working exactly how it was designed to work? One wing or the other of the same bird?
What do you say to voters who are upset that those are the two choices? Biden versus Trump.
Get over yourself. Those are the two choices.
Even if you like the third party candidate better, they'll basically just say, but if you vote for them, then the person you don't want is going to get in.
But what's really going on is corporate oligarchy versus the rest of us.
When it's us versus them, it's we the people who get hurt. They use fear and they scare people into thinking that they really don't have a choice, when we do.
The power of 3 breaks the polarization of 2. So yeah, yellow is needed.
For Americans not to feel that they have to vote out of fear, that they feel that they can vote out of hope.
Change can happen.
It's about time. At this moment, an independent coalition winning elections is a nonviolent, profoundly unifying pathway.
And we can step out of the paradigm that has kept us limited for all these years.
Revolutionary! 80 years ago, we ended World War II. 80 years before that, the Civil War ended in Union. And 80 years before that, the United States became an independent nation. Now, we are in a great turning. And if red and blue are the only colors you have, you can create. Never a sunset, never a forest or the fall leaf. If you are attempting to paint the dawn of a new age, you will need yellow, the third primary color.
You cast out a pebble and it creates this ripple, and the ripple is
Pretty
the
powerful.
change that
Kind of sounds like they should make the map, Kennedy's map, instead of purple, yellow. I like this. This is good.
changes the world.
Yeah, power to the people!
Enough of us have a belief that that's possible, that it's happening.
Truth A, you have truth B, and there's the real truth somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, think outside of red and blue. Think yellow.
Sign the petition. Let's get the debate.
Debate is the way you stir the soul of democracy.
You know you all want to see it.
Go to timetodebate.com and sign the petition. Let your independent voice be heard. Thank you.
American Values 2024 is responsible for the contents of this advertisement.
That's beautiful.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. My guest today is Dustin Kittle.
All right. That's great. Yeah, so go and check out Kennedy's YouTube channel. It is awesome. Just to leave you here with this, I think this may be a great way to leave this here, because we all know something a little bit about this. RFK Jr., a letter to liberals. That's all I'm going to say. A letter to liberals. I love the way this book starts. I'm just going to read the way a letter to liberals starts here. And I hope you go and get this. Starting with an author's note. And I'm going to read this. I'm going to stand up here. I'm going to read this. Take this out. Author's note. Attacks on me, quite frankly, are attacks on science. So, if you are trying to get at me as a public health official and scientist, you're really attacking not only Dr. Anthony Fauci, you are attacking science. You have to be asleep not to see that. NIAID Director Anthony Fauci, Meet the Press, June 9th, 2021. Sorry, get that right. Right there. I know you can't see it. Ooh, let me see. Really right there is what looks the best. Look at that. The book starts with Anthony Fauci. It's a great way to start your book. You can imagine where the book goes from there, since it's written by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Amazing. It's only 100 pages here. Not even 100 pages. You love it. Please get this. I love this little hardcover one. If you just want to get the PDF first, you can get that on my website. What is truth? What is truth911.wordpress.com. Please go and get this, a letter to liberals. Remember, this was written in 2023. So this was written, or 2022, actually. So this was actually written before Robert F. Kennedy Jr. got kicked out of the Democrat Party, or left the Democrat Party. He really left, right? They don't kick people out, but he left the party, and for good reason. This book may help you understand, if you don't already. And let me just read some of the chapters. I'll just read one of the last chapters. The name of the last chapter, which is one that will be used for this book. Lots of great chapters. I don't want to read this some of these, but here's one, page 93. Does hatred of Donald Trump and support for Pfizer's vaccine justify savaging the Constitution? So there you go. It's a very good little note there, and it's not that much, because when I first saw that he came out with this is just a paper, a very long paper, but this is really good. I'm glad they have this in book form, and he goes through it. He goes through COVID. He goes through all of that. And he doesn't necessarily put the blame on Trump, but just that Trump made some bad choices in who he put in charge of this, which is different, right? Every person's story is kind of different. The one person's story we haven't really heard is Trump's. We haven't heard his side on this. We really have not. He's really stayed away from the COVID and what happened during those days. And I think that's the story. That's the chapter that is missing from the Trump story. That's a chapter that RFK Jr. is going to help bring to light so that we can all understand that. There was a video recently by Rand Paul, short little clip, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It's still up on YouTube. Rand Paul talks about Anthony Fauci speaking, testifying before Congress the other day or the other week. And I replayed it, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, banned on TikTok. TikTok does not want to hear anything about the COVID stuff. That's really all that I get banned for. I got banned for playing from TikTok, or not banned, but I got a strike, or they took the video down. They took the video down that I put up where Kennedy just says that he is not anti-vax. That's all he's saying. He's not anti-vax, and he goes into why, et cetera, et cetera. I asked TikTok, like, well, what's wrong with this video here? It's kind of putting it in your guys' favor here, because I know they're all pro-vaccine and pro-COVID, and let's not even talk about COVID. That's what it seems like. And Kennedy's video just kind of goes into his thoughts on it, and the fact that he's vaccinated, he's gotten the shot too. I thought that would be enough, but no, it's not. So it's a good video. TikTok is just so funny about what they ban. Some of the other videos they do great on TikTok. And I think it just shows that people just want good content. They just want to hear from Trump, from Kennedy 24. And that's it. Give them that and they're good with it. So God bless you all. Thank you all for joining me here. I really appreciate it. And just remember, God loves you. Jesus loves you. So do I.